Hi, I'm Debbie Georgatos. Welcome to my show, America, Can We Talk? Today, we're going to talk about Michael Flynn's attorney files a writ of mandamus. I cannot wait to tell you about that. Steve Moore may or may not be joining us. He's part of the Save Our Country Coalition and was scheduled today. I think he's had a little bit of trouble connecting. And last, Joe Biden, a threat, Whitmer and Abrams, other VP choices. And of course, I'll tell you why these stories matter to you. Stay tuned.
Debbie Georgatos, host of America Can We Talk, is an author, attorney, and political analyst whose mission is to inspire the American political conversation about preserving liberty in the best country on earth.
And hello again, and welcome to America Can We Talk and to today's First Five. I'm Debbie Georgatos. Well, I mentioned just yesterday what a fabulous attorney, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, has representing him, Sidney Powell. She filed that motion we were talking about called a writ of mandamus. And I have to tell you, I'm going to tell you what it is, but what really is the point of this First Five. We are watching a parallel universe, a legal parallel universe evolving in Washington, D.C., where you have one party, one side, working to follow the rule of law and to move a case forward as the law requires in this country. And you have the deep state American left simply refusing to honor the very structure of our law, simply refusing to honor the system created in the Constitution. And they're both going down parallel tracks. So let me start first with Sidney Powell. Talked about it many times, joined us many times on the show. Sidney Powell is the attorney for Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. And I know you know the story, so very quickly, the DOJ, the Department of Justice, filed a motion to dismiss all charges against Flynn, basically because they made stuff up, because they had no basis to be questioning him to start with, because of grotesque misconduct on their part. They got caught. They filed a motion with the court saying, you know what, we have to drop this whole thing. And the only logical response out of the judge, Judge Emmett Sullivan, the only choice he has legally is to grant the motion to dismiss filed by the Department of Justice. But Judge Emmett Sullivan has now thrown off all pretension of honor, all pretension of being a part of the legal system committed to following the rule of law. He is basically telling you, he is telling us, he's telling America, he's telling the DOJ, he's telling Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, I don't care what the law is. I'm not listening. I'm not going to follow the law. This is a revered federal district court judge, the hero of Sidney Powell's first book, License to Lie, sitting in this case as the judge in the case of the criminal prosecution of Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. He will not do the only thing the law allows and requires him to do. So Sidney Powell filed a writ of mandamus, which is a very rare thing in law. It's basically a request for an order from the next highest court up, so Emmett Sullivan, district court judge, federal district court judge in D.C., so the circuit court above him, the Circuit Court of Appeals for the Washington, D.C., Sidney Powell filed a motion called a writ of mandamus. He's basically saying to the court, district court, appellate court, you need to tell Emmett Sullivan to do what he's supposed to do. He doesn't have any choice. It is not one of these optional motions. It is, you need to order him to do what he's supposed to do. So in particular, she had some really, really good lines in her filing. And this is really a lawyer just going to bat for her client in a way I'm hoping many criminal lawyers in Washington, D.C. would do, many criminal lawyers in this country would do, which is you actually continue fighting for truth. And that is what she's doing. She's fighting for truth. She's fighting for the existence of the rule of law. So she writes in her motion, the petition seeks an order directing the district court to grant the Justice Department's motion to dismiss its criminal case against former National Security Advisor to President Trump, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. The government moved to dismiss the information charging a violation after, and these are Sidney Powell's words as she put them right out there for the world to see in her filing, which is public, with the Court of Appeals. The government moved to dismiss the information charging a violation of 18 U.S.C. 1001 after an internal review by the U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Jensen unearthed a stunning evidence of government misconduct and General Flynn's innocence. I mean, she's laying it right out for the court. She's the motion is perfect. I was going to tell you, if you're a little bit of a legal beagle like I am, you want to read the whole writ. You can read her writ of mandamus. She has her own website, SydneyPowell, I think .com.org, but it's up on our website, AmericaCanWeTalk.org. You can go to our website on the homepage under shows, drop down, list of links. You can read the entire writ that she filed. It was really brilliant. It's very pointed. It's very unequivocal. There's no other option for Emmett Sullivan than to dismiss the case, and no other option for this Court of Appeal to grant her writ of mandamus and order the dismissal of the case. And she also asked in her motion that he, the judge, be ordered to dismiss the case. She asked that all further proceedings, anything in this case, be moved to a different judge, and also asked that the appellate court order Emmett Sullivan no more proceedings. No more proceedings, no more motions, no more garbage, just do your job. So it's a great motion she wrote, very punchy, very feisty. She also pointed out to the appellate court that district court has no authority to adopt the role of prosecutor or change the issues in the case by inviting or appointing amicus briefs to perform the investigation or prosecution that the court deems appropriate. And you have to, people, this is like, Flynn was charged by the U.S. Attorney, by the Department of Justice, and now they've dropped that charge, and so now what this trial judge is trying to say, well, maybe we can charge him with something else. Let me think about this. Could we charge him with perjury because he pled guilty when now he's saying he wasn't guilty? Could we do that? He's trying to find another crime to charge Flynn with, and he's getting some judge, we'll get to him in a moment, to brief him on the question of whether or not he, this judge, could go ahead and prosecute Lieutenant General Flynn for something else. And I could read you more of this brief, but it's really very biting, very clear, very unambiguous, just the most amazing thing. So that is one universe, the universe of truth, American law. The other universe, proceeding down the same path in the same case, involves Judge Emmett Sullivan and the retired judge that Emmett Sullivan appointed, a judge named Gleason, appointed him to essentially represent the Department of Justice and suggest or review other charges maybe Emmett Sullivan could concoct and bring against General Michael Flynn. So, to start with the audacity of all this, Sullivan has no right to do this. He has no right to say, I don't really care if the only permissible prosecuting entity, the DOJ, has dropped the case. I'm going to just fool around here. Find somebody else. Oh, look it over here. Finds a judge, Gleason, who has only in the past few months written an editorial in the New York Times talking about his how he was going to, he thought that it was just terrible that the DOJ had dropped charges against Flynn and lambasting the DOJ. So Gleason is on the same side as Emmett Sullivan and is against the rule of law. So that's who Emmett Sullivan chooses to write this brief. So Gleason, ignoring, and he's a judge, he knows there is no basis for this entire effort. Gleason says, sure, I'll step up. What do you want me to do here? So Gleason filed a motion in front of Emmett Sullivan to say, hey, you know what? As long as I get to go after Flynn even further, he asked for a briefing schedule. He asked for a hearing date to set to argue motions. He's just proceeding when the case, the only possible prosecuting entity, the DOJ, has dismissed it. And Gleason, who is himself a federal judge, knows the law, knows what has to be done here, and he's playing along with Sullivan. Oh, okay, you're going to ignore everything about the rule of law? Sure, okay. In that case, I'd like a briefing schedule. I would like to request oral argument. So, just astonishingly, on top of all that, so he files this motion, Gleason saying, yeah, I'm going to come and talk about this some more. And then we have I'm sorry, you know what, this is really funny. I'll just tell you right on there in the middle of my show. So Steve Morse is to come on, and we are not connecting. Now he's calling me, but I can't talk to him right now. We'll get him, I think. Steve Moore, I think, if you can try him again, maybe on his cell. Matt the Wonderful. Maybe you can try him on his cell. So anyway, back to this. I really want to tell you what. So next thing Sullivan did is, Sullivan then issued an order going along with Gleason, saying, sure, what do you think here, Gleason? And so he's now set a briefing schedule on this completely unauthorized, it's not even a witch hunt. It's like it's a crazy person's thing. He's filed now, the judge, Emmett Sullivan, saying, you know what, actually, we're going to go ahead. Yeah, I set a briefing schedule. He set oral argument. He set oral argument on a case that has no right to be in front of him. He has no right to be issuing orders. People, I'm telling you this not just because I'm having a meltdown about the way this court is conducting itself. But the real point of this, the real point of everything we're talking about, is that Emmett Sullivan is telling you, he's telling the world, he is part of the deep state radical left. He will throw away his entire reputation in the legal world. He happens to be black. He's a distinguished looking, formerly preeminent federal district court judge in D.C., and he will throw all of that away in the quest to push the deep state agenda to get Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. That is what he is saying. He is saying he will throw all of it away, his reputation, everything. He'll throw it away in order to continue pushing this prosecution of Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. And to be really clear, what seems obvious to many people, setting an oral argument in July, and then they'll probably have supplemental motions, and then other motions, and another hearing date. Sullivan and Gleason, those two federal judges, Gleason retired, Sullivan still the judge of record in this case, are thinking that they can somehow push this controversy perhaps all the way till after the November 2020 elections. They think they can keep this up there, keep this in the courts, keep this in the headlines. All of the American people who are not very informed, who actually think that Flynn did something wrong, who actually been duped by all the DOJ has done to him, will be dragged along by everything that they are trying to do right now. You will see this judge just absolutely willing to keep this case going as long as he can. So now the question becomes, what about the Federal Circuit Court in Washington, D.C., the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals? Are they also so committed to the deep state that they will ignore people? I'm telling you, my lawyer background as an informed American, there is no other choice for this judge than to dismiss this case. But they're thinking, is there any way I could work this out? Could I finagle another headline? Could I push it a little deeper, a little longer? This is exactly what they're doing. So now we will see it's in the hands of the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals to say, actually, Judge Sullivan, you need to follow the law. You need to grant the motion of the DOJ to dismiss these charges. You don't get to cook up your other charges and think of other things you wish had been charged or you'd like to add on. And these are not just, preferences of left versus right, Republican versus Democrat. This is American rule of law, or just the absurdity of the jungle law, or just no law at all. The abandonment of the entire construct of the rule of law is what Emmett Sullivan is trying and willing to do in order to get Michael Flynn. Because a linchpin of all of this Trump-Russia collusion hoax was getting some convictions from the Trump team. And obviously, when you had Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, the National Security Advisor, the first huge position of power and responsibility, you have him, the NSA, serving as the NSA, National Security Advisor, and the FBI, DOJ, is able to bring him down in a matter of weeks. This was a huge coup for a huge get for the ongoing coup against this president starting inside the FBI and the DOJ a couple of years earlier. This is just a perpetuation, the ongoing, we're going to get this president, get this candidate Trump, and then President Trump because we can. So again, honestly, I think that you might find the writ of Mandamus filed by Sidney Powell on behalf of Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. You might actually find an interesting reading. It's very available. It's on my website, americacanwetalk.org. I want to just tell you two other things that happened very quickly. One is that 15 Republican people who are serve as attorney general in various states, so 15 attorneys general in states across this country, including Texas, have filed on to an amicus brief in this case saying to Sullivan, are you kidding me? You have to dismiss this case. You can't just push it along because you wish you would. It's like an umpire in baseball. The game is over. Everybody knows who won. We all followed the rules, and we're at the end of the game, and the umpire is saying, no, we're not done yet. I'm going to let another inning happen here. I'm going to let some more batters come up. I'm going to let the teams play out a little bit more. I'm going to think up a new game we can play. I'm trying to think of analogies to ensure it sinks in. This is absurd. Absurd. So that is what's happening. You can read, actually, it was a wonderful thing the state attorneys general did, and actually a lot of great commentary online. You can read on my website, americacanwetalk.org. At the homepage under shows, drop down list of links. You can read this commentary. I mean, we're at a place of absurdity. And someone I was talking to earlier today was saying, didn't even like the baseball analogy I just gave you, because the baseball analogy kind of sounds like, it's kind of a game. It's not really that serious. It's like a baseball game. Okay, so the ump cheats. This is a rule of law, or not the rule of law. We just abandoned it in America. And this is, to wrap up this first five, this is the absolute determination of the American left, the depth of evil of the deep state American left to get Trump at all costs. And Michael Flynn was just one vehicle to do it. They probably really like the idea of going after Flynn because President Obama doesn't like Flynn at all. And President Obama didn't want Flynn to be in that position in the new White House. And had he been able to stay on as NSA director, if Flynn had been able to stay on, he might have been very much in a position to discover all of what the DOJ and FBI were doing, all the intelligence agencies were doing to our system of justice. I mean, taking Flynn out was a double or triple coup for the coup plotters, because they got a big name, they got someone they can tarnish with their effort to tarnish Trump. They got a big name, they took out somebody who might have discovered what they were doing, and they kept alive the delusion in the minds of ignorant voters that maybe Trump really did something wrong. So that was way past my first five, but I'm a little bit wound up on this topic. So that now we have Matt the Wonderful. Okay, so you know what? We have Steve Moore joining us, and he's been on the show numerous times, and I'll quickly mention him again. Steve Moore, Americans who are conservative know and love this man. He's an economist. He has served honorably at the Heritage Foundation. He's served in the Wall Street Journal at editorial board. Right now, he's involved he stepped away from his position with the Heritage Foundation to work with the Save Our Country Coalition, which is a coalition, I'll tell you more about in a moment, but a coalition designed to bring into the policy-making decisions the arguments and the concerns about the impact on the economy from the endless, ongoing shutdown of our economy due to the coronavirus. So, Steve Moore, I believe, do we have him on? Yes, we do. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Gabby. How are you?
I'm well. I'm happy to see you. How are you?
I'm good, and I feel, we talked a couple weeks ago, and I was kind of in a glum mood, but I do feel a little bit more upbeat about what's happening around the country right now. Texas, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, Republican states with great Republican governors are opening up. They're liberating their economies, which is a wonderful thing to see. By the way, they're doing it in a very safe way, and the big reductions in death rates and hospitalization rates in states like Georgia and Florida, and states like Tennessee and Texas and Iowa. Gee, that's the opposite of what the media was saying, right? They said, these Republican governors are going to kill their citizens. So that's really good. But the problem we have, Debbie, is we got so many of these blue states that are still shut down. States like California, states like Michigan and Pennsylvania, and states like New York and New Jersey, and they're really holding back the rest of the economy. But I'll tell you one thing, one message I want to get across to your conservative viewers and listeners: we cannot allow a blue state bailout. If the blue states want to say shut down, that's their prerogative, but they shouldn't come to Washington. They shouldn't come to the residents of Texas or Tennessee or Iowa or Utah and say, hey, bail us out. No way.
Could not agree more. That blue state bailout, bad news. I do hear plenty of comments out of conservatives. I think people are tuned into what they're trying to do. So I want to hear this. First of all, I just love the name Save Our Country Coalition. I love that you all gave yourselves that name. I love that you're pushing this effort. So I saw that President Trump had, I think announced yesterday, or the day before, announced the idea that he was going to have some, his ability to use his executive power to deal with the agencies and say, you know, you need to be holding back or cut back on regulation that is in any way impeding the economy rebounding. So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I was surprised by that myself, and I was just jumping up for joy when I saw the president do that. You know, he's getting back to his strike zone, which is cutting taxes, reducing regulation, cutting red tape, you know, letting businesses, you know, do their thing. And when you do that, you get jobs back, you get higher wages, and we need to get America back to work. I mean, don't you think it's about time after 6 or 8 weeks that we start to get our businesses open and our workers back on the job? Now, one problem that I've identified with the president, and he knows this, and he's hopping mad about this, as I think most people in the country, you know, in 31 states now, we're paying more money to people for not working than for working. I mean, how stupid is that?
Stupid, and actually really hard on employers who say, hey, I'm ready to go back to work, but my team won't come back. I've heard
a lot of stories from employers. I get probably 2 or 3 calls a day. A guy runs a construction company, needs 80 workers. He can't get them because you know what they say? Well, I could go back on that job, but I might make more money watching TV and not having to get up at 6 in the morning. And, you know, those are tough jobs, working on a construction crew or, you know, working in manufacturing. So we've got to fix that problem, and the president knows it. But, you know, Pelosi wants to extend that unemployment policy for 4 more months. 4 more months.
Well, you know, yes, she does. And honestly, I really feel like it's a helpful window on the way the differences between what people think about America and the economy. I think that the red states, people saying, yeah, we're going to get back to work. It's going to be a great thing. And there's data showing that the states that are reopening are not seeing the spike in cases that the left tried to warn about. So then you say, well, if there's no spike in cases, what is the reason the blue states are staying closed? You got to ask yourself, it's like politically advantageous to them.
Yeah, you know, they're impoverishing their own citizens. I mean, shame on these Democratic governors. I'm from the great state of Illinois. I grew up in the Chicago area. I love the Chicago area, but it's going to be a wasteland because Governor Pritzker there, you know, does not know anything about business. He's you know, was born on third base, and he thinks the solution, you know, his solution is to just keep the economy shut down for weeks and weeks and weeks. They're not talking about opening up until maybe the 4th of July. I mean, there's not going to be economy to open up. I live in Virginia, as you know. Virginia is used to be a red state, then it turned purple. Now it's a blue state. We elected this dunce cap Governor Ralph Northam. He wants to keep the economy shut down till at least the middle of June. And I say, Governor, you're not going to have much of an economy to open up by then. I mean, it's really sad to see what a lot of these governors are doing. But the good news is, I think the red states are really putting pressure on the blue states to open, because people in blue states are saying, wait a minute, why are they open in Florida? You know, Florida population is about the same size, a little larger population than New York. And yet New York has 50 times more cases of coronavirus, so 50 times more deaths than Florida does. And Florida actually has an older population. So you'd think if any state was hit by this, it would be Florida. But no, it's New York, where Governor Cuomo, who the left said, oh, what a wonderful governor is. If you notice, they're saying, oh, he should be the next president. Yeah. He's the worst governor in America. They've got more cases, the worst economy in the country, and they want to make him the president. That tells you a lot about where the left is in terms of getting prosperity back. But meanwhile, I got to say this. Ron DeSantis is really becoming a big hero around the country for what he has done in the great state of Florida.
He is, in his speech, you probably saw it, I don't know, last week I think it was, where he ran through the predictions for my state were X, And here's what it really was, why.
Yeah.
And when he reopened, he was criticized heavily. And there are people saying, when does he get an apology for all the vitriol aimed at him? When does he get someone saying, okay, I want to turn and talk, if I could, Steve, about the state of Virginia. So I know you're in Virginia, and I saw a great story. There's a little bit of a citizen pushback about this idea that, you know, you don't, Governor, entirely going to decide when we open up. Maybe we, the citizens, decide a little bit, because they had the shutdown of the beaches, and then there was a big crowd at Virginia Beach. And it was such a big crowd. There were pictures online, big crowd. And it was kind of like the governor, what's he going to do about it? You can't arrest them all. You can't round them all up. So he ended up saying, okay, well, Virginia Beach can open, but not the rest of them. I just thought that was a little bit of a, I like that. The uprising, the people say, we'll decide when we close, and we're going, I don't know,
Yeah,
did you?
and that's where I am, by the way. I think it's time to take the power away from the politicians and these dictator governors who think they can tell businesses when they can open and people when they can go outside, and curfews and all these things. I mean, these governors are acting like dictators. And why not at this point allow Americans to make up their own minds? I have relatives who are not going to go outside. They're very afraid, and I respect them. And if they don't want to go outside, that's their God-given right. But there are many people who do want to go out. They want to get their hair cut. They want to maybe go to a restaurant. They want to get back to the office and be productive again. And why not let the American people make their own decisions rather than politicians make the decisions for them?
Could not agree more. And there's a fundamental message about conservatism and about America. It's trust the people. Trust the people to make decisions as part of personal responsibility and personal accountability. And I love that that message is resonating from conservatives and from President Trump and from the right. And what the left is really telling people is you're more like our subjects. We don't really trust your judgment. We're not going to let you make decisions for yourself. And I hope more people can decide. It's a little bit offensive to them. Okay, one last quick thing, Steve, I got to tell you. I saw this thing in California. Some county, and I was Googling while you were talking, I couldn't find it, but some county in California, the county government has announced they're no longer complying with the shutdown. There will be no shutdown. There'll be no businesses can open, people can travel freely. And even in California, this spirit is emerging a little bit. They're saying, hey, wait a minute, not okay. I don't know if you saw that story, but don't you love that?
It's happening around the country with people. It's civil disobedience. And the problem is, I love those stories, but what I hate is, in some cases, these sheriffs or the, government officials come and literally will take these, like immigrant, little immigrant shop owners or people who've run a little restaurant or, little shop, and they'll come in and they'll take those people away in handcuffs. I mean, this is not the Soviet Union. This is America. I mean, come on. You're going to put somebody in jail because that they want to earn a living? That should be a fundamental human right, that you're able to earn a living in this country. So there is a real trend in this country to object to that. I think that we're starting to see a light at the end of this tunnel. And I think, thank God, we have Donald Trump as president. One of the smartest things he did was and this was something we had advised him to do, but his instincts are really good. Let the states take the lead. And this is federalism. And it's so amazing. You look at a map. Red states are open, blue states are closed. That tells you a lot about the difference between conservatives and liberals.
It most surely does. So you're part of Save Our Country Coalition. I know you.
Yeah, if people want to find out more, they could just go to the website, Committee to Unleash Prosperity. We're putting out, are you getting our newsletter we put out every morning, the Prosperity Hotline? It has really great information about the real news, because, by the way, we didn't even get into this, maybe next time, but the media coverage of coronavirus has been as corrupt and misleading and mendacious as I've ever seen before, and that's saying a lot. But almost everything you see in the media, the Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, is a fabrication of what's really going on in this country.
Absolutely true. And I would love next time to talk about what the media is doing and what really it's just, as I often refer to them, they are just the kind of communication arm of the left. They are trying, in my sense, trying to keep the people fearful, keep them in their homes, perpetuate the damage to the economy, all yes. with the notion that somehow in the fall, this damaged economy will be President Trump's fault. So I love that you are working with him, and he is stepping up more and more to say, we got to get back to, he's doing a great job.
Thanks again.
Okay. Steve Moore, great to see you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Okay, folks, that was great. Steve Moore, he's just as you can hear talking to him, he's full of energy, full of excitement. And the organization he's working with now, he stepped away from Heritage. He's working with Save Our Country Coalition. And it's just full of people like us, people who love free markets, who want America to thrive. They want America to be healthy, but thrive and move back and get back to work. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So grateful for him. And again, I just signed up. He mentioned you can sign up for the newsletter. I just signed up for that. And I actually think I Googled Save Our Country. I don't know where I signed up, but you can go, oh yeah, Committee to Unleash Prosperity. They give a daily update. They give you all sorts of information. They actually ask for feedback. What do you think about this or that? So great way to get information about this Save Our Country Coalition and the effort to reopen America. Last thing I want to hit today, folks, and this is a topic, you know, we could talk about the Biden candidacy a lot on this show. And honest to goodness, I could get clip after clip of him stumbling. And, you know, he very recently, I think it was just yesterday, in some interview, was referring to the enormous billion-dollar bailout that his administration, when he was vice president under Obama, and they did that massive bailout, it was like $780 billion, and he said it was $82 billion or something like that, which is, you might think, a misstatement, except interview after interview, he loses track of his sentence. He couldn't think of the name coronavirus. In a very, very short interview, he was being asked about something, and he was going, you know, the virus thing. He couldn't think of that. So I don't want any person on the planet Earth to suffer from dementia. I actually really don't. I think he actually is suffering from some form of dementia, and I think it's cruel that the Democrat Party and his wife continue to prop him up and pretend that he can handle the job. I don't think he is there. I think if I played 35 or 40 clips in a row, you'd probably all agree with me, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to mock him, but what I do want to get at is this. We, on the conservative side, have been thrilled with the Trump presidency. You know, especially before the coronavirus, we had turned everything in America around. We had just a booming economy and lowest unemployment rates, and we were reinforcing our border. We had just the most upbeat, can-do, positive American spirit. And this was happening even though the left had engaged in the coup, even though we had inside the DOJ and the FBI an actual coup against a sitting president, simply because they did not want him to win and they did not want him to correct course for America, put us back on track. So even though that was going on, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, even though the farce of the impeachment effort was going on, President Trump had done so much. The way we have reacted to the coronavirus in this country, what Steve Moore was just alluding to, and what you, and the show, if you listen to my show very often, you know, we have had the left and the media in this country trying very hard to stretch out the entire coronavirus economic disaster for as long as they can. The left pushing to keep America closed, to keep our economy shut down, to keep people helpless, to encourage people to become dependent on government, to push for larger and larger bailout packages out of Washington, D.C. This is what the left has been doing. So this coronavirus reaction was yet another attempt, and is an ongoing attempt, to destroy President Trump. So many people on the right, I hear them say, Trump is going to win in a landslide. Don't worry, Trump is going to win in a landslide. Everything was going great. We're going to fix the economy. He's going to win. And I just want to plant the seed now, and I'm going to come back and talk about it numerous times before the fall elections, and that is this. We may dismiss Joe Biden because he's unfortunately seeming to suffer from dementia, because he does not speak well, because he can't get a sentence out, because he mumbles and sputters. But what the left is really doing is not Biden on the ticket. I still think, by the way, to put my marker out, I still say the Democrats will find some way to get him off the ballot. Something will happen, and they'll have to say, we got to get him out of here. Now, they're running out of people who could possibly step in and withstand a presidential race and stand up and do it. I think the only one they feel really good about is Michelle Obama, and she won't do it, supposedly. But I want to focus on Biden and what the left is doing. It's not Biden on the ballot in November. It's the radical left. Biden isn't leading on anything. He isn't thinking about anything. He's being handled by the left. So when you think, oh, it's no big deal, obviously he's not going to get elected, understand the entire, just armament, everything entrenched in the deep left is behind Biden. If Biden remains as a candidate, the entire entrenched deep state left is out to get him, out to support him, out to get Trump. And I'll tell you an interesting thing about Biden. I mean, to the extent you can attribute things to him based on his own speeches and positions. The traditional thing in politics is when you're in a primary, and it's true on the left and on the right, Democrat, Republican, when people are running in a primary, they tend to try to appeal to their base. So Democrats in primaries target the left, the more radical left in this country. They come out with very leftist positions. And Republican candidates tend to try to talk to the conservatives. They have conservative messages because they've got to win the primary. They've got to get those votes in. But then, once the primary is over and both parties have chosen their candidate, so you have a Democrat and Republican, the tendency for all time has been that the two candidates, once they have won their primary, they don't have to cater to the fringe and they run in the middle. They say things more palatable to a broad cross-section of voters because they want to get that middle swath of independent voters, the undecided. That's just fact historically. Biden has done the opposite, and it's very interesting. Biden won the Democrat nomination by pure being the only one on this stage who looked sane and wasn't socialist. I mean, I really want you to think about that. The entire Democrat voting base, the Democrat primary voters, had whatever it was, I can't remember the number, 16 or 17 candidates. And the one who emerged as the winner because he painted himself as the moderate, the reasonable. He's not a radical leftist. He ran during the primary more as a moderate. He didn't run as a Bernie Sanders socialist or Elizabeth Warren socialist, or he can run through all the names. He didn't run as a radical. He ran on, hey, everybody knows me, Joe Biden. I can't even look presidential. I've been in the White House before. I have experience. I know everybody in Washington. I'm your kind of mainstream Democrat guy. And he won the nomination. So he's done the opposite of what is traditional. He's now running for president, and having won the nomination, running as a centrist, he's now tacking to the left. Or at least whoever is handling him is tacking to the left. He is now talking about things like the Green New Deal. Oh yeah, that's a great thing. Yeah, Green New Deal, yeah, that's me. I'm always a Green New Deal guy. I mean, the Green New Deal, if you don't ever listen to the show, you haven't before, you don't know about the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal has like this much to do with the environment and this much to do with climate change. It is the complete communist takeover of America. It is the surrender of the system of governance in this country. That's what the Green New Deal is. Biden, Mr. Middle of the Road, he's all of a sudden all for it. He's for relieving student debt for all these kids who have borrowed money and can't pay it back. He is taking on the leftist positions. As I said, he's now being handled and run by the left. This is where it's headed. The left is controlling him. He's not really the candidate in the terms you would normally think a candidate would stand for what he believes in. He would articulate his beliefs. He would defend them. He would find new ways to say them. He would give examples. Biden, it's not Biden the candidate. It's the radical left is the candidate. They're controlling him. He's just like a little puppet being controlled by the radical left. On top of that, the decision for who will serve him as vice president is also being controlled by the radical left. Now, you may have heard the name Stacey Abrams. We talked about her on the show before, a black woman. She was a former Georgia state representative. She ran for governor in Georgia. She came closer than people thought she might. Thank God she did not win, but she ran as a Democrat for governor in Georgia. Fortunately for America and freedom in Georgia, Brian Kemp won. But I'm getting a Stacey Abrams to say, people with their head on straight look at Stacey Abrams and they think, why would she seriously be considered as a VP potential candidate? I mean, Biden has committed, it's not a contract commitment, but he said he would pick a woman VP. So his VP choice, given he's not there mentally, is really important. It's really, really important. And so he's been talking to Stacey Abrams. She's running a one-woman PR campaign for herself. She wants that nomination. She's claiming she deserves it. She's claiming, after all I went through in Georgia, and I ran for governor and I almost got it, she is carving out, I am the entitled candidate to be chosen as Biden's VP. Now, people who want people based on their experience, based on their knowledge, would look at her and say, what has she ever done? I mean, she's been a Georgia state rep, but I mean, she hasn't served in government. She, as far as you ever hear her speak, she does not seem to be able to speak about the larger issues, the serious ideology of the party. She is very much focused on claiming racism is wildly prevalent in this country, claiming voter suppression is always happening, even though when they investigate, at least when she talks about it, there doesn't seem to be evidence of it. But she is in my term, a race baiter. She is someone who's using the fact that she happens to be black as a means to argue, therefore, I'm entitled to this job as VP. And on top of that, she's arguing she can help bring the black vote to Joe Biden. And the black vote, as you know, in this country is now being challenged by conservatives more than ever. You have President Trump having gone forward with support of the prison reform bills, which were pushed by many black Republicans who are arguing that our justice system in this country has been rigged and biased and unfair to blacks. And so you have, President Trump did that, really was viewed as a coup, something that, Obama didn't do in 8 years of presidency, but President Trump did. He did the prison reform thing. You have amazing outspoken people like Candace Owens speaking up for her platform, the Blexit, Black and Latina exit from the Democrat Party. She's out there talking about black Americans ought to recognize the Democrat Party's never done anything for black America, and that black Americans ought to realize it's Republican policies and principles that will help them the best. You have the brilliance of Bo Snerdley, the guy who is the Rush Limbaugh, off air. He's been on our show before. He founded the New Journey PAC. They are pushing for bringing the message of conservatism, of republicanism to the black communities around this country. You have a lot of movement within the black vote. And so Stacey Abrams is arguing, I can help with that. I'm the one. Kamala Harris also being seriously looked at apparently as a possible VP running mate for Joe Biden. And then the last one, which is kind of amazing, is this woman who is the governor of Michigan named Whitmer. And she is to the conservative viewpoint, you're thinking, you have to be kidding. You would pick her? She has been a total dictator. What Steve Moore was describing a moment ago in the blue states, you have Whitmer, runs Michigan. She is a just hard line, shut this state down. I'll tell you which days you can go to the grocery store. She's one of the ones that I'll tell you which aisles you can shop in at Walmart. This was a total power grab, dictator type governor, but she's acknowledged she's had her first meeting with the Biden team to look at the potential for her being Biden's running mate. She does have the advantage. She happens to be quite pretty, quite attractive, and she has won a governorship, so that's something because they want someone who could win. But getting around this segment, I realize I just ignore Biden's presence on the political scene a lot in these days of coronavirus and Mueller and all that. But I really I'm going to wrap up with this before I get to why it matters to you and say this about Biden. He leads the polling. He's up by 5 points overall over Trump. Now, I can just hear the emails you're all going to send me saying, oh, you can't listen to polls, that's ridiculous, that's not true. Okay, Real Clear Politics, that really does at least try to get a wide range of polls, and then they average them, will say Biden overall is up over Trump 5 points. And in very key states, he is up over Trump. In Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Florida, Arizona. And I'm raising all of this to say about Biden. We cannot dismiss the Biden candidacy simply because he is not collected and able to speak articulately. He's not really running. It's not Biden. It is the radical left using the only person who could manage to win the primary and say, okay, Biden's our guy, fine. And they're going to feed him with every bit of leftism they can. And he is not in a position to push back, argue, or even understand. He is going to have his running mate be the person all of us better recognize may be president someday. I mean, stack up Mike Pence, the VP for President Trump, against Stacey Abrams or Governor Whitmer. I don't think that's even close. I think the American people would much rather end up with a Governor Pence, a President Pence, than with a President Stacey Abrams. But I want to say to you, because if you listen to my show, you're probably conservative. And my friends are conservative. My pals are conservative. My life is conservative. We can too easily dismiss how firmly and strongly and harshly the radical left in this country is going to push to get Biden over the finish line to win the November election. Everything they've tried against Trump you may know the truth. You may realize there was no Trump-Russia collusion. You may realize that the Ukrainian impeachment effort was a farce based on nothing. Trump did nothing wrong. You may realize that President Trump has handled the coronavirus crisis very well. But the left and every media outlet out there is telling them the opposite. Every media outlet in this country is going to pummel voters from now, and they have been and they will until Election Day, with Trump destroyed the economy because of his stupid response to coronavirus and his failure to get on top of it soon enough. Trump is still in bed with the Russians, even though we all know it was Hillary. Everyone who's informed knows that. I'm just saying, as they say, do not discount Biden simply because he is confused at this time. Do not discount his candidacy just because of that. Recognize the whole radical left, the same leftist mindset that is pushing Judge Emmett Sullivan in Washington to say, well, I don't know. I mean, we don't really follow the law in my district court anymore. I followed it in the past, but now I'm going to throw out everything about the rule of law. I'm going to allow things everyone knows are impermissible. I'm going to let some anti-Trump judge who is a who is mad at the DOJ for dropping charges, I'm going to magically appoint him to be able to file an amicus brief and then go forward and schedule oral arguments about why I shouldn't make up a charge as a judge to prosecute somebody when the judge, have no jurisdiction to do that. The same level of vitriolic hatred for the system, for the greatness of America, the system of America, the rule of law of America, that's driving Sullivan to do that, is driving the left to continue supporting Joe Biden, even if he remains their candidate and gets to Election Day. They are driving that too, and they are not going to take this election sitting down. So my friends, as I do at the close of every show, I love to wrap up the show by telling you, again, why the stories we talked about today matter to you. So we started today's show. We were talking about Flynn's lawyer and the writ of Mandamus and why it matters to you. There's no way to overstate the out-of-bounds behavior of Emmett Sullivan, like an umpire ordering the game replayed because he didn't like the winner. Only this is not a game. Sullivan is protecting criminal wrongdoing by Obama et al., and he knows it. Is he being blackmailed? Has he been bought? Or is he just a radical leftist in a robe? Is the D.C. Circuit Court corrupt too? We'll soon find out. The clear purpose is to drag out this battle past the election, assume Biden will win, and all wrongdoing will be covered up or washed away. For Americans paying attention, this is evidence of the left's all-out war on America. The left is playing for all or nothing in 2020. American patriots must understand the stakes and fight back. On Biden the threat and Whitmer and Abrams, American patriots must not relax about Biden or take a Trump landslide for granted. Biden is the carrier. The disease is leftism. Biden's just the carrier. It is potentially fatal to America. It is potentially fatal to American freedom. Make no mistake, the left is engineering Biden's candidacy. They don't care about his senility. They'll prop him up to do their bidding. Biden is moving way left, just the opposite of old school Democrat wisdom. Abrams is an unaccomplished woman. Whitmer is a petulant and vindictive governor. But the left thinks it can deliver the Dem ticket to the White House, and polls say it is possible. Patriots must flood the 2020 voting booths for Trump. And that, my friends, is America Can We Talk for today. Email me at americacanwetalk@gmail.com. Go to my website, americacanwetalk.org. On the homepage, click on the subscribe button. You can subscribe to my once weekly newsletter. It comes out on Fridays. Links to stories and articles we've written and show segments from this week. Tune in every day, Monday through Thursday, 3 p.m. Central Time, to America Can We Talk, where I always talk truth about America because America matters. And I'll talk to you next time.
America Can We Talk? Truth about America.